As most of you watching will know, if you meet somebody, you tell them they play board games, and they're not a board gamer themselves, they would generally have the same question. What, like Monopoly? And I have a standard stock answer where I say, yeah, but game design's come a long way, and the player elimination, the luck element, and the game length aren't so much of an issue anymore. And then they'll say, yeah, Monopoly, it takes all day, and it always leads to argument. So 2 points on that. 1, if it leads to arguments, that's a you problem, it's just a game, calm down. Number 2, yes, it does take ages, but should it? Why does it seem to be a fact that Monopoly takes all day and causes fights despite selling around 300 million copies? So let's look at a quick overview of the rules of the game before we go to try and answer that question. Players will roll 2d6 and move around the board, landing on various properties, buying them if they're available, or paying rent to the owner of the property if another player owns it. Once a player has a monopoly, meaning all of the properties of one colour, then they can build houses and hotels on the properties to increase the rent charge to an opponent landing on them. Other key aspects of the game include taking an extra turn if you roll a double, going to jail if you roll 3 doubles in a row, and collecting 200 when you pass go. There are also community chests and chance cards that will cause you to gain or lose money, move your player piece to a different part of the board, or give you that all-important and famous get out of jail free card. If you can't pay your debt, you go bankrupt and are out of the game. If you owe the bank gains all your cash and properties, which are then auctioned off to the remaining players, going to the highest bidder. If you are made bankrupt by another player, your houses and hotels are sold to the bank at half their original cost, and that player receives any cash, properties, and get out of jail free cards you own. The last player remaining in the game will win. So how long should it take to play a game of Monopoly? The longest ever game is said to have taken 70 days, and some presumably very wrinkly people played a 99-hour long game in the bath. But according to Board Game Geek, it should be around 1 to 3 hours to finish a game of Monopoly. Wikipedia says it takes up to a very specific 6¼ hours. The box says, and this should always be taken with a pinch of salt, nothing. So true story, I went to my local Smith's Toys to find the 2025 edition of Monopoly so I could film the box and look for the time on it because I couldn't find it on any pictures on Google, but then I realised I'm a 40-plus-year-old man in a toy shop on his own. I am not getting a camera out in that situation. But the average length of a game in the Monopoly World Championships is 45 minutes to an hour. So why is that? Well, I'll let a very young John Cena explain.
Ruthless aggression!
That's right. Ruthless aggression. Minus the face slapping, I would hope. Pro Monopoly players are playing to win. They're not playing to not lose. They're going to buy as many non-train station, non-utility company because they're trash properties as they can early on and own the board. They're going to mortgage properties to get money to buy more properties. They're going to buy and trade to get monopolies to build houses on those properties. 3 houses on each, which I'm told is the correct number of houses. This has to do with the optimal investment versus the long-term income or something like that. But also, as houses are limited in the supply, putting 9 houses on a 3-space monopoly reduces the number of houses in the pool available for other players to add to their own properties. They look to build houses and unmortgage properties 7 spaces ahead of any opponent. This is because 7 is the most common number rolled on 2d6. In fact, they look 7 spaces ahead of a number of places, especially jail, which is why the orange properties are always fought over. They even pay the bond to get out of jail early in the game to get back out and buying properties, but in the late game they stay in as you can collect rent while in jail, but you get up to 3 nice and safe turns where you're not out and about and possibly landing on an opponent's property. Assuming you don't roll a double by mistake and get out early. In other words, they're looking to win and they're looking to win quickly, getting out on the board, buying properties, getting monopolies and building houses and collecting rent ASAP. So what can you do to get your game time down to an hour? I mean, look, we're playing a game, it's social, the pros aren't talking about their day, stopping to put the kettle on or order pizza, but there is something you can do. Something all these games have in common, no matter the publisher, designer or main mechanism. They all have a rule book.
Rules are good! Rules help control the fun.
It's no secret that the number one reason a game of Monopoly drags on for so long are the house rules. Rules that have been made up and passed on through whispers and game nights throughout the years and have become as much a part of the game as the actual rules are. The first of these is not being able to buy on your first lap of the board. You can buy on your very first lap of the board, you can buy on your very first roll of the dice if you can afford the property you land on. A standard Monopoly board has 40 spaces, the average roll is 7, so that's 5 to 6 turns each before the game even begins properly. That could be more than 5 minutes for a 4-player game. The most common house rule, and the most egregious for extending game time, is earning money from landing on free parking. Which by the rules is nothing but a safe space. You land on free parking, you end your turn. But a lot of people put fines, tax and other payments in the middle of the board and give it to the player that lands on free parking. Now I used to play this when I was a kid and had all day to play a game. But this of course keeps a lot of money in the game, and when the goal of the game is to get players to run out of money, it just extends the game time. Another house rule that kept popping up during my research is that if you land on go directly, you collect double, so 400. Again, that's a bonus 200 you might not otherwise get, which could be enough to up-mortgage a property which someone may land on, and then the upcycle continues, keeping a player in the game. Other rules include the ability to loan players money, which makes 0 sense, and another unbelievable rule is that people strike agreements to not claim rent when you land on their property. You're trying to make people bankrupt. Take their money. Okay, apart from ditching the house rules, what other rules do you need to abide by to make sure your game goes quicker, because you've got that need for speed?
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
Mine is the hand slapping, I would hope. The main one is boring actually, and I hinted it earlier, but it is read the rule book and play to the rules. And I've already mentioned that you can buy properties on your first lap around the board. But what do you do if you land on a property and you don't want it? Well, it goes to auction with all players involved, starting at 1 and going from there. This gets properties sold quicker, and the quicker they get sold, the quicker you start landing on them and gaining rent. It also makes it quicker to get a monopoly, start building houses and bankrupting your friends. But also, Hasbro know this. They know the game takes too long and they're helping you right there in the rulebook, down at the bottom of the rules for a shorter game. This involves players getting 2 random properties and paying for them before the game even starts, so you're on your way to collect rent and victory. It also makes the great decision to award the game to the richest player when the second player is eliminated, bringing that endgame forward by quite a lot of time. I personally would do this after the first player is eliminated so you can start a new game of Monopoly, or something else. They even suggest a time limited game, which would be a fun way to end the night. I'd love to play a 60-minute game of speed Monopoly, taking quick turns, rolling dice and moving while other players are negotiating. So there you go, why does Monopoly take so long?
This is so boring and forever taking.
Well, it's because you're taking time to enjoy the game and playing it your way, which should be good enough for anyone. As a board game YouTuber and a board game advocate, that's all I can ask for. You don't need to have a professional world championship winning attitude to enjoy it. Yeah, it's easy to say just play something different or play something better, but it's not always about that. I know there's a lot of people out there that play Monopoly, Scrabble and Bridge because they want to play Monopoly, Scrabble and Bridge. Maybe they grew up playing with family members who are no longer here and their memories are of playing that particular game. They don't care if, say, Chinatown, Letter Jam or The Crew are better or more fun. They're not the same, and they don't have the connection to them in the same way. So while Monopoly probably takes too long because you're not playing optimally or correctly, that's okay. Of course, if you want to play Monopoly by the rules, including the optional rules to get the game down even further, that's okay. And if you don't want to play Monopoly, there are thousands of other games available, and that is also okay. Including Monopoly Gamer, which, while not the same, is similar and has an inbuilt endgame trigger that keeps the game to under an hour. Okay, that's the end of the video. Let me know what you think of Monopoly and what your favourite house rules are in the comments below. Remember to like, share and subscribe for just 4 board game videos a month, including top 10s and how to plays. You can follow on Insta, Blue Sky and YouTube at JestaThaRogue. Find the blog at JestaThaRogue.com. I've been Rob, aka JestaThaRogue. I'll see you soon.